is an account of an election as conducted by the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, and the challenges that go with it. Zambia is a country with a population of about 12 million people. The country is stretched on a size of about 750,000 square kilometers. It is divided in 9 regions or provinces with 73 ethnic groupings or tribes living in harmony with each other and embraces diverse cultures. The country's economy has seen an upward trend from the 1980s, with the current gross domestic product (GDP) gaining 5% in the last 6 years and recently registered a single-digit inflation rate at 9.8% in 2006 and 7, but has retreated to a double-digit figure of 13% in 2008 due to global increase in fuel prices. Since Zambia's independence, the country's electoral body was under the Prime Minister's office and then the Vice President's office until 1996, when it was established as a commission by an Act of Parliament. Prior to the establishment of the ECZ, then President Dr. Kenneth Kaunda repealed Article 4 of the Zambian Constitution in December 1990 to allow for the formation of more political parties. In 2001, Levi Mwanawasa of the MMD and a prominent Zambian lawyer took over after beating his closest rival and was sworn in as Zambia's third president on January 2, 2002. After serving the country for 5 years, Dr. Mwanawasa faced another election as provided for by law and won a second term of office in 2006. Dr. Mwanawasa could, however, not complete his second term of office due to illness that subsequently led to his death. Following the untimely death of the president, the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, was faced with the immediate challenge of conducting presidential election within 90 days as stipulated by the Constitution. The Electoral Commission of Zambia had an unbelievable task and enormous challenge of preparing for an election within the stipulated 90 days, a task which under normal circumstances would require more than 2.5 years to prepare. Since the establishment of ECZ as an autonomous elections body, it has had the mandate to conduct voter registration, review the voters' roll, conduct presidential and parliamentary elections, and delimit constituencies under the constitutional provisions.
Free and fair elections is not just the baby of the Electoral Commission of Zambia. When elections are deemed not to have been free and fair, there are so many factors that come into being.
Although it is the mandate of the Commission to deliver credible elections, it cannot do so without the full support of voters, political parties, the media, civil society, police, anti-corruption commission, the courts of law, non-governmental organizations and other stakeholders in the electoral process to ensure that the elections are conducted in an acceptable manner. This entails that all stakeholders uphold the laws under which elections are conducted. Full support from all stakeholders is not enough to cover some of the challenges that go with conducting free and fair elections. Since this year's presidential elections had to be conducted in 90 days, ECZ was faced with numerous tasks and challenges.
Well, you should understand that preparing for an election is not an easy task. Most people don't understand this, unfortunately, even those that we work closely with.
The Commission
Among the tasks in this year's election was for the Commission to undertake public awareness programs like radio shows, TV debates, including participation in open forums intended to give information on election issues as well as providing civic and voter education countrywide. The Commission also ensured that it accredited all personnel involved in the monitoring of elections, such as local observers, international observers, party agents, monitors, and the media. Other tasks included putting up street advertisement in form of posters, banners, and billboards to enhance election awareness and warnings on election do's and don'ts. Four candidates successfully filed in their nominations at the Supreme Court from the 23rd to the 26th of September 2008. After the nominations, all political parties went into campaign mode characterized by sticking of posters, songs and rallies. The ruling Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, MMD, had posters of their presidential candidate, Rupiah Banda, who was, until recently, the country's vice president. The United Party for National Development, UPND, presidential hopeful Hakainde Hichilema was contesting for the second time, and Godfrey Mianda of Heritage Party, HP, a former vice president, was contesting for the third time. Michael Sata from Patriotic Front, PF, was also contesting the election for the third time. ECZ had an enormous task to educate over 46,000 temporary election staff for more than 6,000 polling stations. This training of staff was done simultaneously in different parts of the country, as can be seen in Kafue. The principles of good electoral practice, such as impartiality, transparency, voting secrecy, equality of access, accountability and efficiency, formed the basis of all commission staff training. The staff, which included people from all walks of life and background, had to take an oath of affirmation.
My appointment, unless so authorized by law, I will diligently discharge any duties in accordance with the law and shall abide with the Electoral Code of Conduct.
Training workshops were also conducted for the police to ensure that they too carry out their duties in the right manner. The police were expected to ensure that there was no violence before and after elections and maintain peace without intimidating anyone during the election period. The elections were monitored by local and foreign observers who were duly accredited by the Commission and provided with necessary identification.
As I'm doing to say, there's nothing in here.
Therefore, they too were educated on what to look out for. This process was also done simultaneously countrywide. Also present at this particular training session were representatives from the church and civil societies.
We have 6,456 polling districts. All these polling districts and stations will have to be visited at the same time. We have Ministry of Education and Ministry of Health. These people will tell you what it means to manage points at every 20 square kilometers of this country. But for them it's easier because they don't do it at the same time. For us, we have to do it at the same time. What's happening in Shangombo is what should be happening in Kaputa.
The Commission had an immense task to ensure that all other logistics such as purchase, packing and delivery of election materials, publicity and voter education materials and hire of vehicles to the right constituencies. Packing these materials for deployment to their various polling stations is another challenge because it is called for a lot of manpower who had to counter-check and ensure that the correct materials were packed in the right quantities for the right destinations. Others on the list of challenges was arranging for electoral officers' allowances, payments for water and air transport, hire of temporary premises for polling stations, delivery of election materials, and printing and freighting of the ballot papers within the given short time. ECZ had yet another task of reprinting the 2006 voters' registers with extra copies to distribute to each political party for counter-checking and verification to ensure transparency. This too was a huge task to undertake in the time allocated, as each of the polling stations countrywide required about 8 registers, which amounted to over 72,000 copies that had to be packed and delivered to the right places. The media, that is both print and electronic, were expected to provide fair and balanced reporting of the campaigns, policies, meetings, rallies and press conferences of all registered political candidates during the period of campaigning and provide news of the electoral process up to the declaration of results, but this was not the case. Unfortunately, the media, that plays a major role in elections, had been a challenge on the part of the Commission due to the general mistrust encouraged by some media as a result of the poor information and unbalanced reports given by them without being ethical and critical. This could be seen with the ballot paper arrival from South Africa on October 12, 2008 at the Lusaka International Airport, where there was a misunderstanding over the arrival of ballot papers in 2 batches and the usual provision of extra ballot papers that the Commission prints in case of eventualities. Despite ECZ's efforts to be as transparent as possible by inviting various stakeholders to witness the printing and distribution of ballot papers, the Commission's work to some extent was made under heavy pressure due to wild claims and barrage of accusation made by some stakeholders. The media did not take time to understand the reason behind this, but went ahead and wrote one-sided stories despite frantic efforts by the Commission to explain why this was so. Present to verify the ballot papers at the airport was Mongu Town Clerk with his assistants, ensuring that election materials for the district were in place. To allow for transparency, the Commission allowed verification of ballot papers by all the stakeholders, including all political parties, who checked the ballot papers and recorded the serial numbers. This was followed by a meeting between the Commission, political parties and all stakeholders to decide on what to do with the extra ballot papers to avoid further misunderstanding, and it was decided that they would be sent to the districts but would remain there until they were needed. The decision, however, was rescinded after another unverified report of a named driver of a Kalabo-destined truck who was allegedly accused of attempting to steal ballot papers. But the media continued to discredit ECZ, making it more challenging for the Commission to carry out its duties effectively.
Yeah, what is happening now is that basically, according to the Commission, everything was set, but because of the concern of the political parties, they are proposing that we remove what they term as extra ballot papers. So we are forced to remove extra ballot papers. The implication of this, it means we are slightly put off target because we were supposed to start transporting ballot papers to district today. But because of this repacking and sorting out ballot papers, we are delayed a bit.
The media continued with negative reporting, as seen again in the anti-rigging Zambia story, who had fabricated a lie saying they impounded a truck transporting ballot papers in Kafiwe, but it was discovered that it was just a hoax. In this particular election, the film crew chose to follow the election process in Mongu district in the western province of Zambia. Western Province is one such province that is faced with a number of physical and communication challenges, as was experienced in the 2006 elections, where the results were delayed in some instances. Mongu boasts of the beautiful plains where the famous Mongu rice comes from and abundant tasty fish that comes from the Zambezi River.
My name is Sam Mwapela. I am town clerk and the district electoral officer I'm in charge of the conduct of elections in Mongo district.
Mongo Town Clerk Sam Mapela is a district electoral officer who had an overall responsibility for ensuring that all officers involved in the running of elections perform impartially and efficiently. He is also responsible for appointing of returning officers, polling stations and nomination centers. With just 48 hours to the election, ECZ staff began to report for duty as they had to be deployed to their polling stations where they will stay until the end of the poll. Deployment of staff and election materials had to begin on time owing to the vastness of the district and seeing that the same transport would have to be used to transport election materials, including the ballot papers, 24 hours before the poll. This was a challenge on the part of the staff that had to carry along with them personal belongings, including mattresses, clothes and food to last them the duration of their stay. Others even had to carry their babies. Before departure, the staff was briefed for the last time and a prayer was conducted. Induna Ngese was the returning officer overseeing Mongo Central. He too undertook a boat trip to deliver personnel and materials as all the available routes and transport had to be used to save on time. This route, however, was challenging as the water levels was very low at this time of the year. At some points of the journey, the boat had to be pushed because the boat or engine hit the waterbed. This was dangerous because there could be crocodiles looming in the area. On this particular trip, a near mishap happened when the boat hit the waterbed and almost capsized. But fortunately, the election materials were not soaked. Upon arrival at Kama, there was inspection of the contents of the election materials and a short briefing took place before the returning officer undertook the trip back home, which was an even bigger challenge as navigation was almost impossible when the sun set. A day before the election at the Civic Center, ECZ staff once more made verification of ballot papers, again assisted by the political parties in the presence of the police to ensure continued transparency at district level.
But these things are going to be guarded by our officers, and in some points, officers are already at point B. Please.
As PF, we are comfortable at least with what is happening.
Once the political parties were satisfied, the distribution of ballot papers then began using the 4x4 overland trucks hired by the ECZ, which are suitable for the challenging terrain of the area that is characterized by the Kalahari sand. The ballot papers were escorted by the police and were seen for the first time at the polling station. On the same day, the district electoral officer had to make special arrangements with the pontoon operator to keep the pontoon open after 18 hours to allow the election results to be transported back.
The pontoon opens at 06 and it closes at 18 hours. So since voting ends after 18 hours, therefore we would have a problem here in the sense that we would not be able to get the results back from the respective polling stations. As a result, we have come here to make arrangements with the operators of the pontoon, that is ESCO Limited, so that we agree to extend the hours of operation from 18 beyond until all the results from the 7 polling stations have been received and ferried across to the other side of the Zambezi River.
On the election day, the returning officer for Mongu Central took on his supervisory duties of seeing to it that the election was conducted well at the polling stations. Ngesi, who was also known as the Induna of the local people, is well known by the electorate in the area.
And my being here, it's not something that is new. This is in connection to what I did even before when I was still in employment, and now I'm representing ECZ in the local community to see that the ECZ guidelines pertaining to elections are followed by everybody.
Ngesi ensured that the polling station was set up before opening time. This included putting up of posters, booths, tables and chairs, followed by the official opening of the polling station. An official announcement by the presiding officer was made and the polling station opened at exactly 6 hours.
The time is 06 hours and the station is open for the casters to come and cast their votes.
After verification that the ballot box is empty, it is sealed before the voting starts. The first step in the voting process was the verification of identity cards.
Katiti Siloka, voters card number 03967183, NRC number 204455/82/1.
The details on the identity card was read out aloud to allow for verification and count-checking by the polling agent present using the reprinted voter registers. The next polling assistant then marks the voter stamp with an indelible marker so that once they vote, they cannot repeat the process as the ink does not easily come off. The voter is now issued with the presidential ballot paper and a brief explanation is given on how to put a mark on the desired candidate. This process is checked by and observed by monitors present. Here we see Kuku, very eager to cast her ballot, but she has to wait for her son, who is also a registered voter, to cast his ballot, then later assist her to cast hers. It should be noted here that for all those who are assisted to cast their vote, a note is made for the records to this effect. The polling station closed at 18 hours and the presiding officer again made an unofficial announcement that the poll had come to a close.
The time is 18 hours The station is closed. Polling has ended.
The ballot box aperture was sealed in the presence of the police and other stakeholders present, and then stock of the unused ballot papers was taken and recorded in a form called the ballot paper account. Serial numbers of the ballot papers, number of valid votes received, and total votes cast have to be filed in. The seal was again broken and the number of cast votes was counted before they were listed on the ballot paper account to ensure that the numbers tally accordingly. Kama polling station is one that does not have electricity, but fortunately ECZ provided lamps for such situations. The ballot papers were then separated according to their respective parties. After separation, they were recounted candidate by candidate and put in separate files in sets of 20s. If there were any disputed and rejected ballots, the presiding officer should provide an explanation for this and record this in the ballot paper account form. At the end of the poll, the results were announced and election agents signed to show that they were agreeable. The commission this time around insisted on the display of results at the polling stations to avail voters to verify which results that will be announced at the results center and provide a checklist of all casted ballots to some civil society organizations and all participating parties in the October 30 elections.
Being the presiding officer for Kama number 90.
The used ballots of each party were sealed in a separate envelope, including both the rejected and the disputed ballots, respectively. These were put back in the ballot box, which was sealed again in the presence of the police and polling agents in readiness to be transported to the totaling centers. The journey back to the totaling center in the night was not an easy one, as the truck got stuck with the only alternative provided in the morning. This often has contributed to the late arrival of results, consequently increasing suspicion and mistrust. The ballot boxes had to be transferred to another vehicle, and the police officer and the presiding officer had to accompany them up to the totaling center. Upon arrival, results are announced and taken to where they were sent to Mulungushi International Conference Center in Lusaka, where they were transmitted and announced constituency by constituency.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you so much for waiting. Good day.
As soon as
Yes,
you
please call
fax
back.
me anytime. Alright. Thank you very much.
Thank you and good morning and welcome to our center. The results received so far appear Sata Michael C. Patrick Grant 10,270 votes.
Having seen this story, I'm sure you will appreciate the challenges that the Commission faces in trying to ensure a free and fair election, and that our role as individuals, political parties or civil societies will be to support the Commission for the sake of democracy.